So I'll just sign into my Axiom using Xero. In my Xero file, I've got a single client who is a contact, and I'm setting up my Axiom. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to apply service level mapping. Now, currently I've only got a single service listed in services, and therefore it's called a test service, and I'll link it to sales. So I'm going to sync it at that level. And then I will view my contacts. So I've only got a single contact, as I showed you, in here, and I will import to Axiom. No, it didn't import. Sorry, this is saying not in Axiom. So now that contact should be in here. So there's Xero contact brought in. I'm adding another service. Put the details, and I will select a scope. So this is tax return scope, and the income tax account will be sales. Billing. Oh, okay. Individual tax return with business. Okay. So that service is now created, and let's go and make sure that it's mapped. And let's see the service mapping. So there you have it. I haven't put a price in that one actually. So let's put a price in. $180. Yes. Okay, and now let's check that. Manage service mapping, and it's got its price. It's adding a prospect to sell a service to. So we've got our display name of George Street, geograph loop. I'll just use any address there. And we need to put in a contact associated with this card file, this contact card file. So we need some details for this person, and we will have him as the authorized contact, and also the contact signatory for himself and the billing contact for himself. And now we will add his company. So prospect, company. So the details for the company, and this will be George Street. Now, noticing that I'm selecting the existing contact, which will be this one, and noting that in this case I need to say this person will not only be the director but also the signatory and the billing contact. Don't forget to save. And now we can go to work selling the service, and we're going to sell just a test service. So let's go to our contracts, adding a proposal, and let's go to George Street Plumbing. So it'll pick up the signatory and the invoice recipient. So just it so that this will automate down, and then the insert the proposal. So you can go and edit your templates for these. And I'm just going to put in the test service. I want to make a modification on that, $25. Go to the billing, and noting it'll pick up the GST, and I want my payment. So I want this to be invoiced after signing the contract. And let's go to the agreement. Have it just for that. Now this should pick up all the variables that are in there, like the date, or whatever you add in as a variable. So let's send that off. Now that might have been a little bit disconcerting because I gave this contact a name of Edward Scissorhands when really it's just me. That's because it's associated with my test email. So let's just make sure that that is sorted out, otherwise it will cause some confusion. Okay, so now I've aligned that, right? So let's save that, and you can see it's aligned with my name. So if you're going to test this receipt of the email in the same browser instance, make sure to log out of here first. So you can see I have sent it using the Axiom mail, and unfortunately the client's inbox has received it as spam. But if you connect your own mail server, you shouldn't see it as spam. So let's see the receipt of the proposal. So of course I get my SMS. So I'm the client now, right? So this is me looking through this proposal, going to the billing. I'll put in my credit card details, go to the agreement. So the direct debit is set up. Okay, scroll to the bottom, agree and sign the contract. And that's done for me as the service provider, as the client. Now I get an email so that now I'm the service provider, and the client has signed. Now you'll notice that the countersigning will fail because I need to countersign the proposal. So I could click here and go through, or I can log back over here, make sure I'm in the system, inside Axiom. And here it is here. So I'm going to need to sign this. Now you'll only ever have to sign this once, and for any client where you're going to have to match, otherwise it'll auto sign on your behalf. So you can see here I'm going to need to select this one, right? So I don't find George Street Plumbing inside Xero, so I need to add George Street Plumbing for the invoice to take hold. And you'll notice it will auto sign on my behalf. Okay, so now you've got a full contract. If you want to have a look at it, you can download it. Okay, and moreover, the client will get one too. So, Hotmail. So, Outlook actually. Just to show you, the client will get one too. I think it goes into junk, unfortunately. So there's that test service signed, and the client can download that, right? Remember, it's not junk either. I should probably click it, download. So this is the client getting the contract, downloading, and seeing the contract from their perspective. Now notice after that event, there's no sync issues with any contacts. And in here, we have the George Street Plumbing, which is now active. And if we go inside of Xero, noting that inside of Xero, it's not showing as a customer yet because the invoice hasn't generated. The invoice will generate within 2 to 4 hours because it runs on a batch process. And now in here you can see that we've got George Street Plumbing as a contact only. Now within 2 hours, I'm the client. I get my invoice from Xero, noting that if they view the invoice, so I'm the client now viewing the invoice, I notice that it says that it'll be paid via Stripe, and in fact it's paid instantly by Stripe because I've been using Stripe for a while, and Stripe will then do the offset, and the way that it all works is as follows. So if we go and have a look inside now, I'm back inside as Vulcan Advisory, and this is the invoice. You can see it's paid, invoiced and paid on the same day. So invoiced and paid on the same day. And moreover, if I look inside the general ledger and go through what has happened in here, ignoring the receivable invoice from Albert Pike, because this is the manual one I put in earlier today, but essentially here is the invoice that I was looking at a moment ago. Here is the receivable payment, which is via Stripe, and that Stripe transaction has processed through the Axiom offset account. Now, the other thing that's processed through the Axiom offset account is the 77 cents for the Stripe fee. 7 cents of that ends up in GST, and 70 cents ends up here as an Axiom Stripe fee. So this is the expense. Now all we're doing is waiting for the money to arrive into the bank account from Stripe, which will be equal to the offset amount. So instead of getting the original $27.50, we're only going to get the $26.73, which is the $27.50 minus the 77 cents. So this is the $26.73 that we should expect to hit the bank account. Then our accounting is done. So your only activity is to map or allocate your Stripe receipt to the Axiom offset account, and that should zero out. So that invoice has gone. That invoice has gone. Obviously, it's been paid, and because this is actually connected to my other email account, I can come in here and show you that here is the $27.50 receipted today within minutes actually. So that's come in, and moreover, if we go back and have a look over here in Axiom and reload in here, let's have a look in the money section. So if we have a look in the financial section, we see, okay, so the paid, yep, so you can see it's all settled now. It would have gone through those. I should have probably showed you the steps as it moved through from upcoming invoices. It was invoiced and then it was paid. So you can see here now that it's actually reflected in here as well.